You're listening to the Relationship Resolutions Podcast, episode number 72.
Welcome to the Relationship Resolutions Podcast, where we talk about your life, your love, and your relationship. And now, here's your host, Mario River.
Hey guys, Mario Rivers here. I'm your host. This is the Relationship Resolutions Podcast. To all you people who come back week in and week out, you guys are freaking rock stars, and I appreciate you listening to the podcast, downloading the episodes, and sharing it with other people that may need a message, because a lot of people are struggling out here in relationships. They're hurting, and I'm just trying to help heal some of that hurt. You can go back and check out any of the previous episodes, guys. You can subscribe at mariorivers.com/subscribe. I should be saying that every episode, but yeah, share that link with people who you think these episodes can help. Now, the last two episodes were pretty hotly debated. Y'all should go back and listen to them. We talked about child support, and we talked about people being wrongfully accused or being the father of a child. What happens when they spend a ton of money and they find out the kid isn't there? So you can go back, episode 71, episode 70, and listen to that. The show notes for this episode will be at mariorivers.com/episode 72. Today, we're going to talk about why long-distance relationships don't work. Now, there's a chance, every time you enter a relationship, there's a chance you're taking. It can either work or it won't, depending on a ton of factors. And I know everybody wants love, and everybody wants to be in love, but I'm going to tell you a few concrete reasons why you should never get into a long-distance relationship, with only 2 or 3 exceptions. So there is a chance it could work. So I don't want to discourage all you people, but I'm just going to be realistic about why I advise you not to enter into long-distance relationships. And I talk about this in my book. Near the back, we talk about long-distance relationships. And I actually have an entire module in my course about it. You can find those in the show notes at mariorivers.com/episode 72. And right now, if you buy the book, The Truth, Blueprint to Relationships, or you enroll in the course, you'll get an extra book all about mastering dating. Go check those out in the show notes. I talk about long distance relationships and a lot of other things as well. So 9 reasons why you shouldn't enter into long distance relationships and 3 exceptions. We're going to talk about it. So first, every man and every woman, they want someone that they can reach out and touch, right? Because relationships need that physical aspect. In phone calls and Skypes and video conferences will only go so far. A relationship needs that physical aspect. This is one reason why I wouldn't enter into a long distance relationship. That's number 1. Number 2, a person eventually, right? Once you're talking a lot and you're conversating, there's going to be some type of bond that's developed, and you're eventually going to want to hold that person or walk down the street with that person or hug them when you see them or when you miss them. It's very hard to do that when you don't stay in the same area or when you're not physically there in person. There's going to be this longing. Now, again, I'm not saying it can't work, but I'm saying it doesn't in most cases. And there's been some studies done on this, and I think it's around 1% that do work. So in most cases, you're pretty much kidding yourself if you think it's going to work. I'll tell you about the exceptions of how it can work after we get through these 9 tips. So the first reason why you shouldn't, every man and every woman wants someone they can reach out and touch, and relationships need that physical aspect. The second thing is that eventually you'll want to hold that person. You'll want to hug that person. You want that affection when you miss them, and you can't do that if there's too great of a distance. Here's another thing. The needs of the relationship are going to be hard to address because of the distance. I mean, people have a hard enough time when they're right next to each other in the same city. Long distance adds just a whole other element that you have to struggle against, right? People can't do right these days right in the same city. What about when you have a disagreement and you're doing that over the phone? You know how hard that is? I've done it before. It doesn't work. People have tried it, been trying it for a long time, and it just doesn't work. Only in 1% of cases. That's not a very high success rate. So here's another thing. Traveling to another area, it can become very costly, especially if you're constantly commuting by plane or if you're driving to a location that's way out of the way. I mean, travel is not cheap. And if you're doing that on a consistent basis, something's got to give, right? Here's another thing. People's attention spans are very short. They are likely to quickly move on if they're not getting the attention they need. And the relationships need a ton of attention. Seriously. Most people Here's another thing. Most people will entertain a person who is showing them attention that they want and need, especially if they're right there in the physical. So what am I talking about? Let's say you guys start talking maybe online, or you decide that you want to be with this person and you start to develop some relationships, have some conversations, and then either you or that person meet somebody locally in the area. Do you think that they're in a relationship with you, that they're not going to entertain that person that's locally there, that they can feel and touch and see right there? I think you're kidding yourself and you're not being honest with yourself if you believe that. Now, like I said, I think it can work. It takes a special type of person to do that, though. Eventually, I think that levee will break. And most people will entertain a person who's showing them that attention they want and need if they're right there in the physical. Here's yet another thing. What about when you want to be intimate with the person and you develop real feelings? How will that be resolved? On a consistent, regular basis, I'm talking about. Like I said before, talking on the phone and emailing, it's okay, but it's not sufficient to nurture a serious relationship. So those were the reasons why you shouldn't enter into those long distance relationships. It's just so much to overcome. And in most cases, it's destined to fail. And I'm not making it up. This is statistically proven. So here are the three ways, the three exceptions that it can work. And I would only enter into a long distance relationship, and I would only advise you to do so if the following factors are true or can truly happen. One, if you're planning on moving to the city that the other person is in, or if the other person is planning to move to your city within 6 months or less. Two, if you can have a face-to-face conversation on a regular basis, at a minimum once or twice a week. So that means, like, if it's an hour, that's a doable drive. 2 hours, that's a doable drive. I think anything outside, 2 hours is a bit much. I mean, but you can work it if it's like 4 hours or less. It'll be a stretch, but it's doable. And the third thing is if you have an absolutely unbreakable trust factor. How many people you think have that? How many of y'all can say that you truly 100% trust your partner? It's not many people that can say that. I can tell you that now. And that's one of the cornerstones of a solid relationship. Most people, and I say this in my book, are the result of past experiences. So it's not really that they don't want to trust, is that the past experiences have conditioned them to expect certain things. So they automatically go into new situations carrying that old expectation, right? People have to earn that trust. But if you don't know them and they haven't done anything to you yet, you should start the slate clean. It's just so hard for people to do that because they've been conditioned to experience things like people lying or not being able to trust someone, or and this is just one of the biggest things about long distance relationships that you have to have, and that's trust. If you can't 100% say that, yes, I'll trust this person with my all, you don't need to enter into a long distance relationship, because it's not, I'm telling you, it's going to cause some things to creep in your mind. When you call a person on the phone and they don't answer on the first ring or the second ring, how many times do you start thinking in your head, what could he be doing? Be honest with yourself. And things get to brewing around in that mind of yours, and you'll create all kinds of scenarios. Yeah, I know y'all admit a lot yourselves that women overanalyze things sometimes. And boy, when that phone doesn't get answered, when the text doesn't get returned, there it is. Trust, man. It's a cornerstone in a relationship. If you have a hard time trusting, if you hang on to past experiences, bad experiences, long distance relationships is not going to be for you. So again, the only exceptions that you should do a long distance relationship. Number one, you're planning on moving to the city, or the other person is planning on moving to your city within 6 months or less. Two, if you can have a face-to-face conversation on a regular basis at a minimum once a week. Three, if you can trust 100%. So don't be naive about a person hundreds or even thousands of miles away. Ask yourself, if the person you're talking to would date someone or would talk to someone who's right there in the flesh rather than hold out for you. Ask yourself, do you completely trust that person? Can you really completely trust a person hundreds of miles away? And can you really blame them for getting involved with a person that's right there in the flesh rather than a person who's hundreds or thousands of miles away that they don't often get to see in person or get to touch? Here are some other things I think about. As a long distance relationship involves a very healthy communication factor, which is mostly by email or phone call or text, would you be upset if you called and they didn't answer right away, or at least multiple times? It's much easier to think something is going on if you call and don't receive an answer. The person could be working, or maybe they have a schedule that only allows them to talk at a certain time. You'd probably ask questions like, why can't I talk to you any other time? Why do we only talk after 5 on Tuesdays or Thursdays, or even every day? Why can't I have more? It's because they stay a long ways away. I've seen this time and time again, and you can really get emotionally vetted in a long distance internet or phone relationship. But after examining all these factors that we just talked about, I believe you should just steer clear of them unless the gap in distance is about to be removed by either of you two moving into the vicinity of the other's area. Other than that, it's a no-go in my opinion. But again, there's a small percentage who do work it out. But I don't honestly believe that those men and those women held out the whole time they were involved with the other person for various obvious reasons, and that's my 2 cents. That wraps up today's episode, brings us to today's words of empowerment. Don't stop just because you don't see results. You cannot microwave success, so keep at it. In the same way, you can't microwave a relationship. It's hard, tedious work, and most people are not prepared for what it takes. If they were, we'd have less divorces and stronger families. Again, today's words of empowerment: don't stop just because you don't see results right away, because you cannot microwave success. Same thing with relationships. You can't microwave a relationship. And this is what people try to do today. They try to rush to the love part, and you don't even get to know the person. It takes time. So what do you guys think about long distance relationships? I'd like to hear your opinions and thoughts and comments. So drop it in the show notes, mariorivers.com/episode 72. Thanks for listening. If you want some quick relationship tips, hit me up over at Instagram at The Relationship Bootcamp. Join me for next week's show. I hope to talk to you then. You can find everything about relationships that I teach in one place over at mariorivers.com/relationship coaching. So thank you guys for the time that you spent with me today. And every week, I'm glad you're here. Please connect with me on social media. The links to all that will be in the show notes. I hope I have served you well today. Take care. Peace, blessings, and prosperity to you. Oh, by the way, the next few episodes, I'm going to start answering questions from people. I've got about 110 of those. So those episodes are going to be really short, but I'm going to be answering specific questions. If you have a question, you can go to mariorivers.com/ask Mario. It's going to be part of the Ask Mario show on YouTube. All right. Links for that in the show notes. Take care, guys.
I know I'm a walking contradiction. She looked at me and said, boy, you supposed to be a Christian. I said, hold on, listen, I'm just sitting here for the night. So stressed out, I'm just trying to get it right. Yeah, gotta wake up in the morning and I gotta go to church. I'm praying people, they don't see my hurt. Yeah, I'm broken and I really need some healing. Yeah, and for one night I need fulfillment. Let's risk it all tonight, I am not bluffing.